Alright.
Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. I am here with Mr. Mangler, and we'll be reacting to. What is it called? How
Uh,
Much Power to Vomit a Universe? Toriko by IdeaShock.
yes. Who sent in this request? We're recording multiple videos today, but like, do you remember? Was this one that you submitted, or was this someone else? Just give them a little bit of background.
I think you sent it to me when I was doing research for Toriko.
I sent it.
Yes. It was either you or Rock and
Huh.
Ellis.
Probably Rock and Alice. Yeah, because I don't send power scaling videos to people unless they ask for them. Typically. But either way, yeah, we're gonna be watching this at one to 1.25 times the speed, presumably.
That's
We'll
what
just
I
be
have it
giving
at.
our takes, so we can begin.
Yep. Same thing as last time. If you have something that you want to say, just tell me to pause in the time, and I'll go back to that.
Heard?
How much energy would vomiting 20% of the universe from your gut require? Yep, that's what we're doing today. And just so you know, it's probably more than you think.
I wasn't expecting the pause like 10 seconds into the video, but
Yeah,
but he's given
that
an
was a little quick,
arbitrary
wasn't it?
he's given an arbitrary percentage to what we've already been told is. He even has the panel. It says countless.
So here's what I I think he came to that conclusion from. He's probably referring to the total scope of the Toriko universe because the blue zone is like one because when people think of the Toriko universe, they think of all the zones as being part of the same overall universe because all of that was created by the Gourmet Big Bang. But what they don't seem to understand is that like technically every zone is its own universe.
The series
Um,
the series goes out of its way to explain that it's a different time space as well.
yeah. Well, actually, I don't know if there's any statements that it's a different time space, but they aren't occupying the same physical space. Because eating the blue zone universe doesn't do anything to the red zone universe or any of the other zones. Which, again, if they were connected to the same physical space, it would have had some lasting damage. It's possible they could have the same time flow, but like they don't have the same space. They explicitly do not. So I'm assuming that he's referring to 20% of like all those pieces of the pie. But that actually doesn't really make any sense technically because there's like aren't there like seven pieces? Because there's like a green zone, a red zone, a white zone, there's like a yellow zone. I think there's a black zone too.
There's a there's a red, blue, black, white, and I think there's a green universe and a yellow one.
Yeah. Anyway, um, starting out better than most Dorico scalers at least. Props to him. But yeah, arbitrary percentage. Anyway, we can
Actually,
continue.
but props to having scans.
Yeah, props to having scans.
Just the bare minimum. Alright. I'll be continuing on from 10 seconds.
Hello Internet, Jojo here, and I love Toriko. I love the series Toriko. It's really cool. And if you're not aware of the series, like I think you should be, you can think of it as a cross between One Piece, JoJo, and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. It's quite intense and insane. Also, it's thoroughly entertaining. That being said, there are many things to calculate from the series, but of the thousands of different food, dozens of characters, and just strange feats, there's one thing that is just far and away above the rest, and that would be the main villain of the series. Well, I guess he's the more misunderstood of the series, or the main socially awkward of the series. I don't know. It's when he vomited up about 20% of the universe. We're talking about Neo. Now, from this image, Neo might not seem that terrifying, but he is known as an appetite demon, and he has a taste for foods that are filled with emotion. His favorite emotion being fear and despair. So in order to beat him during the final arc, Toriko unleashes a myriad of attacks that are filled with his least favorite emotion, rage. And so after taking a lot of these disgusting attacks and consuming even more food and maybe a bit of a Deus Ex Machina, Neo essentially vomited up his entire guts. Now, that is a definite simplified version of the story, but it is what happened. Now, Neo's major claim to fame is that being an appetite demon, he was so hungry that when left alone, he systematically consumed all edible materials and a lot of unedible materials in about 1/5 of the known universe.
Okay, so where is he getting this arbitrary percentage of like 1/5 of the universe?
I'm assuming this is where he's going to explain it, but if you got to, did you manage to get to 2 minutes on the dot?
No, I'm up to 149.
The 2 minutes on the dot.
Alright, I'll let you know when I get to 2 minutes.
We know this because the actual universe of Toriko, the space, stars, and plants and animals and all that, is divided into 5 sections. The black section, the white section, the red section, the blue section, and the green section. Over the course of several billion years...
Okay, so he's under the impression that it's all just one universe, and it's split into quadrants like the fucking Dragon Ball universe. Okay.
Yeah, which, to be fair, I mean, if you thought that, okay, but like, even in the official translation, which this guy is using, they literally say he ate our entire universe of blue space. So it just is a universe. It wouldn't matter if you considered it a quadrant. It would still be the size of a universe. You would just argue the Toriko universe is bigger at that point.
Yeah, you just argue that the Gourmet Big Bang is basically just like low multiversal. Like it's not.
It's not really that crazy considering that like a lot of the especially the materials that come from the Gourmet Big Bang. We find out that when they land on planets,
you just cut out.
and when those materials are cooked, hold up.
Oh, by the way, if people hear a little bit of banging, I am having breakfast, so sorry for that.
So what I was saying was that when the Gourmet Big Bang happens, we're told by the Nitro that they eventually discovered at some point that the materials from the Gourmet Big Bang, mainly from like the royal families that started the Bang, seeped out into the universe and made contact with a bunch of planets. They found this information out and they started cooking those planets. When they cooked those planets, it actually increased the density of the planets hundreds, thousands of times over until eventually what happened to them is the same thing that would have happened to the Toriko world, is that it increased the actual gravitational pull and mass until eventually it would explode with a force greater than that of a supernova. Planets weren't like normal planets. The gourmet matter actually made them bigger. So if the gourmet matter made like a planet bigger, there's no reason to believe it couldn't make a bigger universe.
And
especially if it universe, which it did.
And from what we know, given that the blue universe and the red universe are infinite in size, it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that like the white, the green, the yellow, and the black are also infinite in size as well.
Yeah, especially if you're coming to the conclusion that he ate 20% of the universe, even if you thought that was a quadrant, that still means the entire blue space is an infinite number, because the last volume of Toriko, volume number 23, states that when he spit up an infinite amount of galaxies.
Well, hold on. His math doesn't work out to be correct, because he's not including the yellow universe then.
Well, okay, so he said
20%.
I was gonna say, well, there's yellow, black, green. I don't know why. So I'm looking at the picture because this is red, blue, black, yellow, green, and white. Yeah, that's actually 1/6. So that's more like it's not 20% of the universe. That's like what is it? That's like 1/16, 1/18, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
1/6.
People take
to be more accurate. 1/6, not 1/5. So it's a little smaller, but also that white does not look like a white. That looks like a purple.
Or like a
I just kind of noticed that. Yeah, it really only works in the black and white manga. When it gets colored, it looks a little strange. But anyway, where are you now? You should be somewhere after like 2 minutes, I'm assuming.
2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can continue then.
All right.
I think we've addressed our point.
Neo managed to consume the entire blue section of the universe and leave the planets barren.
Okay, so I didn't think I was going to be pausing again at 2 minutes and 8 seconds, but that's you're literally putting up the scan. You're misrepresenting the scan that you literally just put up. He says our entire universe of blue space. You can't just. You know,
Also, let me go get the manga panel while Kyle talks, so I can actually explain this because I have both of these in my closet, so I can read them to you.
yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle.
So he talked about eating the blue quadrant of the universe, but that's not true. He's eating the blue universe. You can't just call it a quadrant because the only way I can conceive this is if he has no idea what a multiverse is.
I think he's just that would it would be weird if you're coming to the conclusion that he ate 20% of the universe, but then you thought he ate only the planets. Um, Good sir, like no offense to you, but like, do you know how big the universe is? Because planets don't even make up 1% of the universe. They're like not even a proper fraction of 1%. Neither do the stars. So even if he ate every planet and every star in that entire space, that wouldn't represent most of that entire space. So, like, even if he did eat all the areas of importance, the nitro statement wouldn't make any sense. Especially if, since the nitros also know that that isn't the entire like universe as you're claiming. Like, there are other zones. That wouldn't really be that much of a problem per se. It makes more sense to assume he ate the entire universe. Well, because one, it's stated that he is. Two, later in this panel, he actually clarifies he ate a bunch of galaxies too. He didn't just eat like the stars or the planets or things he could physically wrap his mouth around. He ate massive astronomical gravitational bodies over many, many, many light years, over hundreds of thousands of light years. So let me go and get the
That's not even taking into
thing here.
consideration of everything he would have had to have eaten in the blue universe. Like, but people seem to forget all of the dangerous stuff that's in the universe, like gamma ray bursts, stars, black holes. He would have to have consumed all those.
Yes. Let's see. Let's see if I can find the actual. Yeah, he ate our entire. So okay. The reason why this
You just cut
is
it out.
important is that on that panel where he says he ate. Oh my God, give me. I'll have to switch to my earbuds at some point. But before we pause, I'll switch over. So on that panel that he's mentioning, that's one of the pages on volume 3 when I believe it's Pear is explaining this. He says he ate our entire universe of blue. Can you even fathom how big that is? The problem is that he scans in on this shot. That's I don't want to say that's like disingenuous, but it can be led to being a bit disingenuous because there's another statement on the panel below. Can you fathom how big that is? That's cut out by him scanning. What it says is that can you fathom how big this is, or how big that is? An astronomical number of planets and galaxies disappeared because of it. So, no, he didn't eat all the planets. He ate all the planets and the galaxies, an astronomical number of them. So high it can only be represented by a term that refers to the cosmos. So why didn't you include that? It's on the same panel. Why did you cut that out?
The only reason I could think of why he's trying to go this route is so he has something to actually like calculate at the end, because if you just say that he's spewing up an infinite number of universes like he is, you can't really calculate that. It would just be infinite.
Listen, that sounds more like the death battle approach of it, where it's like, I want to put a number to it, but guys, I can't calculate infinite. It's like, sure, you can. We do it all the time. We just use it as a range of numbers. I'm sorry if you don't like number ranges, but those are still fair. Also, that's what we're told, so that's what we use.
They would, wouldn't they? They would absolutely use this logic and say that it's 20% of the universe to downplay. That's funny. I never thought of it like that. Not this person, Death Battle. Ready to
Yes.
continue?
Yeah, we can continue.
Super.
Now, because the world of Toriko is our own planet Earth, despite being far larger and much more populated with plants and animals, the universes should be the same. So there's about 320 sextillion planets in our world. Those should be the same planets in the world of Toriko, give or take. Assuming that each of these universe sections are roughly equal, the blue area which you consume would have about 64 sextillion planets. Given that this is very specifically the gourmet universe, and food is literally the most important thing ever, I mean the start of the universe is literally...
Oh, this poor dude. Except for the fact, you know, the series goes out of its way to say that it's has an infinite amount, but you know, you do you, I suppose.
They don't just use infinite in regards to that. They use it in regards to like a bunch of other techniques. When Acacia uses his back channel, he makes an infinitely compressed backspace. Toriko can make an infinite spiked punch. Infinite is consistently used like a lot. So it's not just like a flowery word. They're usually using it to describe a number of certain things, or like a quantity of things, which is how you use infinite. So, yeah. Secondly, I mean, you're kind of just, why would you be assuming that, like, I guess his position is that these are sections because, like, at the end of the story, when they reveal to you the various places, what is it? See if I can find it. Yeah, so it's because the force of that energy that was produced by that gourmet family from the gourmet gods in the Big Bang. They point out that along with the expansion of the cosmos, pushed by a great number of ingredients that were scattered by the initial explosion, certain ingredients were smuggled out and protected by a certain god's family, and later became the planet's full course meal. But that family was also scattered by the force of the Big Bang. Eventually, over many years, the gourmet energy changed the color of their preferred ingredients and formed multiple cosmoses. And yet, the gods still continue to protect the full course meal in each cosmos. So, I guess they're assuming that because it says cosmos, that that's just like a section of it, but like, no, like cosmos can also refer to like a universe or like a massive multi-galactic quadrant of space. It is literally just everything that exists outside of like the realm that you define as like your world. It is effectively your universe. So if they refer to each of them as a cosmos, and Pear literally calls the blue zone a universe, we would call them all universes.
Not much.
All right,
more to
I'm
it
gonna
than that.
switch. Yeah, there's not much more to say about it. We've kind of just repeated the same point ad nauseum. I'm gonna switch
Oh,
to.
I just realized why he would have that mentality. He has a fucking whiz and boomstick like giant poster behind him.
I didn't actually notice that behind him. I wasn't paying attention. Oh my god, he's got a giant death battle thing back there. That's wild. I didn't know they actually had merch like that. I thought
You
they just
you
sold
know
like shirts
what?
and stuff. I didn't know they had
You know
posters.
you know what? This makes more sense.
What?
I think I know why he has this mentality now. He's a volume scaler. He has to be.
Well, to be fair, like volume scaling is kind of how you do things, but like when you get a statement of something being infinite in the context of size, you can't ignore it. That also has volume.
Yeah,
You have to.
but what I mean is like volume scalers hate anything to do with countless or infinity.
Yeah, they hate it because it's well, they hate countless because it's vague, and they hate infinite because it's not a specific number, which tells me they've never been to a math class, or at least a higher math class. Hold up, I'm gonna disconnect and reconnect.
No worries.
Ah, this should sound much better.
Ah, welcome back. Alright, I'm currently up to 2 minutes and 43 seconds. You have anything else you wish to say, or do you want me to continue?
No, you can continue.
Alright.
Called the Gourmet Big Bang, so it's pretty important. We're going to assume that all these planets are inhabited and filled with plants and life and food, despite in the real world they would be pretty much barren, a lot of them at least. Because we only have our own real-life Earth to reference, we have to use that as a starting point. So the total biomass of Earth, plants, and animals is about 55 trillion kilograms, meaning that we need to multiply that by the number of planets to find that Neil vomited about 35.2 undecillion kilograms of stuff.
Ready to discover your
Sorry,
study path, but
I
unsure
just got an
how?
ad, and
At Open Universities
I
Australia,
thought he
take
bluffed,
Of
but he didn't. He said kilograms instead of tons. That's a big difference. 50 billion tons is not 50 billion kilograms. 50 billion kilograms is 500 million tons, I want to say. If my conversion is right, or I could be wrong. I could very easily just Google it, but I'm not gonna.
Well, let me read what he says to make sure he didn't make a calculation failure.
But the problem is, like, even if he's... Because I can see the metric ton calculation up here to kilograms. Like, why are you converting it to kilograms? You don't need to do that to make it sound bigger. It doesn't make it sound more impressive. Yeah, just a little weird on that.
Oh, I was muted. That's why. I don't think he's necessarily wrong because he did do 550 billion tons, which, when converted upwards, would be kilograms. He's not wrong because he said 55 trillion kilograms.
Oh, okay. So
billion.
it must be because I have him on 1.25. It sounds like kilograms. It sounds like he's saying billion instead of million.
Yeah. Also, the biomass of Earth. Are we just counting like trees and plants and all that? Like, what about stuff at the bottom of the ocean?
Well, it's
Because
not
that
even,
also counts.
well, it's not even that. It's like, if you've acknowledged that the Toriko world is bigger and has an astronomical amount of animals that are way bigger than our average ones, you can't use this even as a starting point because it would just be completely inaccurate.
Yeah, the problem is that when we find out, even if you believe, okay, so even if you believe the position that Earth's planet in Toriko, right, has been cooked significantly by the blue nitro, and it's proportionately ramped up more than all the other planets, that wouldn't matter anyway, because when we go out into the world, we find out at the end of Toriko that there are still bigger monsters, or not bigger monsters, bigger monsters, animals, various organisms that are living out in space that have capture levels still. And some of them, like a giant snake, can literally eat planets. So you would still have to come to the conclusion that there are organisms out there that are bigger than planets, potentially stars, that can eat these things, and there are numerous of them. So there should also be other large organic species with high capture levels on other planets as well.
Well, it's not even that.
Like
It's also the fact of, like, let's just take the species that the Eight Kings come from. You don't have specific numbers of how many of their species are there, because, like, Mother Snake is not just one thing, it's a species. Because
it is.
Because literally Sunny has
you
one.
just don't see. You don't see that many of Mother Snake, but then what about Heracles, for example? Heracles has herds of horses. like everywhere. What about the monkeys? The monkeys in because they're like different kinds of monkeys in the gourmet world. They're different from the monkeys that you would see in like your in the actual human world. They're like a different breed entirely. There's literally like 5 billion trained martial arts living on that continent, and that's just the ones that are martial artists.
It's not even
What
that.
about the rest of the average population?
It's like, what about the rest of the what about the rest of the battle wolves? What about the rest of like a moon species?
They also make it clear that the capture levels of those entities that live in the gourmet world are so high, they're higher than the four beasts, who have statements that consistently point out they are like large country to continent level. Because like one of them literally takes an attack that is stated to destroy a landmass that's like I think it's like 52 times the size of like Japan or something. It's a very explicit statement about the amount of force that it has, being like well into the country level ranges, and it just takes it like it's nothing. And every entity that you see in like the gourmet world, from like various dinosaurs and things to just really really oversized large animals, all have capture levels higher than them. So they would all have higher amounts of biomass. They'd have more energy, by extension, more gourmet matter, and more stuff you'd have to calculate.
Well,
So, like, even if the other planets had 1/1000th or 1/1,000,000th of the biomass of those creatures, they'd still be way above the animals living on our planet.
well,
Way above.
we literally start off the time skip with an arc that would literally make this point a moot, like a moot issue, the billionaire bird arc, because it's literally supposed to be able to like lay billions of eggs, so you'd have to be factoring that in as well.
There's also that there are some species that can lay foods that are capable of feeding the entire human world with like tens of billions of people, and feeding them for an extended length of time in an apocalyptic scenario where most of the world has been wiped away. That was literally Ichiryu's backup plan to keep people safe in the event that something happened with either Gourmet Corp or the Nitro. And it worked. But, yeah. We can continue on. Where are you?
3 minutes and 6 seconds.
Okay, that's good.
That we need to multiply that by the number of planets to find that Neo vomited about 35.2 undecillion kilograms of stuff out of his stomach, which, to be fair, is a lot. An undecillion is about 37 zeros. It's a lot. Alright, with that said, we don't know how far his vomit reached, and we know there was a bit of splash. But it is fair to say that some of the things he vomited did reach the edge of the blue section. We know this because what he vomited out is literally described as creating infinite galaxies, so this is definitely well within our range we're working with. The universe is about 8.8.
Okay, so I've just stopped at 3 minutes and 47 seconds. So he just shows the panel and he admits that it's an infinite amount of galaxies. Then your entire point is useless.
Yeah, there's no point in like calculating it like this. Also, you should be spending all this time talking about this. You should be spending your time talking about the actual biomass on the Toriko world.
Well, it's
and pointing
not
out
even
like
that.
here's all the capture levels like we did.
It,
Those are the values you need.
it's not even that. It's like, what's the purpose of converting it from tons to kilograms? You don't need it to sound bigger. It sounds bigger if you use tons, if you use gigatons, if you use megatons, if you use like teratons. Not if you convert it back to kilograms, because if you're gonna convert it back to kilograms, fuck it, go the whole hog, convert it back to grams.
I was gonna say you need to convert. Well, I mean, to be fair, he did get it down to gigatons, but like he made it sound like the amount of biomass on planet Earth is like 550 gigatons. That's an estimation of the amount of biomass we currently have on the planet. That does not account for what's on the deep sea floor. Again, I can't stress that enough. The deep sea floor is something we have not explored. We've made it clear that like our understanding of our solar system, and even like the things that live in our solar system or don't live in our solar system, is actually better than our understanding of our own sea floor. Our scientists have admitted we have not scoped out the full extent of the seafloor.
Well,
We have not gone that far because we don't have vehicles that can travel. We can travel to space. We cannot travel to the bottom of the planet. And we're not talking inside the planet, just a low elevation area.
well, it's just weird that we got a statement for Infinity, but then he just goes on to try and put an actual number to how much stuff Neo has spewed up. It's like, no, it's not how that works.
Yeah, let's continue. Let's see what else he has to say.
Because if he has that scan, then he's well aware that he's eaten everything in the blue universe, which would include planets and stars. So, are you factoring those into your calculations too?
Probably not.
No. Currently at 3 minutes and 47 seconds and continuing.
Sextillion kilometers in diameter, about 4.4 sextillion kilometers in radius. We are also told that an unknown number of days passed as he vomited up the entire universe, but that's a bit silly, because if the end of the world happened and was stopped, and the big bad who was going to bring the end of the world was sitting in the world vomiting up his guts, you would count the days, right? I mean, like, people count days for much less reason than that. Calendars are literally, yeah, you would count the days. So this was definitely counted, but they just didn't want to tell us. That being said, we can actually get a pretty specific, narrow time frame to look at. Of course, we don't need an exact time, we just need a general idea. So given that the rebuilding of the world seems mostly finished, and it was long enough for Ren and Toriko's wedding to be planned and their engagement to be finished, we can assume we're talking in the realm of several months. However, this cannot have lasted too long, as some of the ingredients on Toriko's full course meal go bad very quickly. After all, they are still food, and many of them cannot be gotten for decades, centuries, maybe even only a one-time thing in some cases. They're clearly not normal food, so I am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they can last a couple months. All that said, let's call it 3 months, as that seems like a good number to use. Long enough for Ren and Toriko to have their engagement, plan their wedding, but not too long for the food to go bad. So, taking all these numbers, and we find that Neo Vomit reached the edge of the universe in 3 months. It would need to be moving at about 186 billion times the speed of light at its very fastest. Oh boy, this is gonna be a lot, isn't it? I can already tell. Taking the mass of the universe that he vomited and the speed at which he vomited it at, we discovered this feat had a kinetic energy, the movement energy, of about...
Sorry, I've got that.
Brian's bringing the dead fun.
Holy... I know it'd be powerful, but this is insane. Because you can't see because I haven't put it on screen yet. This is a 5, followed by 76 zeros. I don't even think that actually has a name. Because the energy to create or destroy a universe, the total mass energy of the universe, only has like 69 zeros. This is 13 million times more than the power to create or destroy a universe. Having a dimension in your stomach is one...
To be fair, we do actually have... We do have names.
Your audio is really, really weird.
What? I didn't have both of my earbuds in. That's why.
Nah.
Yeah, it was probably coming out in 2 different places, I'm assuming. Yeah. So having 76 zeros, while that is very impressive, that's definitely something we have a name for. We have names for, I believe, how many zeros goes up to about not just like 100, but also like 1,000 as well. Like, just look up, man, if you're having trouble with this, just look up like a large numbers registry on Wikipedia, and they'll just give you one for tens of numbers, hundreds, potentially thousands. That's where the term Google and Googleplexius comes from. They're just incredibly large sets of numbers that we just created because we realized, oh, we just like adding numbers. So we just created more terms to describe how many numbers we have.
Was the thing he was looking for 36 zeros, or was it 56?
So no, it was 74.
74.
He was just like, okay, that's more than needed because I think you only need to be up to like
we do have a name
or
for that.
something to make the universe.
Yeah, we do have a name for that. It's... Wow, okay, I've never had to pronounce this word before. It's 100 Trevor Gillitillion.
Yep.
Sounds
Again, they just
Sounds like a
add
fucking villain.
more things onto Alien. That's all it is. But yeah, this is to be clear, like this calculation he's making is also this is assuming the total mass of the universe in a specific way.
this is
But
assuming so many things that would make this unusable and inaccurate because you're assuming a time frame. You're assuming the size of the observable universe, even though it's infinite in size, and you're assuming a speed that's flying out.
yeah,
Which-
let me look at this again.
Which all of them should just be infinite, infinite, and infinite.
Yes. Oh, so yeah, no. Okay, you would not assume. No, you would not assume that was months. Because even if they said no one knows how long the days lasted, he admits they probably had a time frame. Yeah, if you look at the panel, Toriko still has his shirt off. He's still on the battlefield. He hasn't gone back to recover or anything. Also, they don't actually have the wedding until after he shared food with them. Everyone else shows up, and everyone else is still rugged and ragged and is still in their battle outfits.
Well,
It's still dirty.
well,
They don't leave the battlefield.
Well, there's
They don't
also
leave the battlefield until he stops vomiting.
well, there's
So
also
no, this they were not standing there for months.
well, there's also
What?
another way you can look at it that I don't think he's even pondered. It's like they have back channels.
I was gonna say they have back channels, yeah. So, if you want to consider that, it probably let's be honest, it probably lasted just like maybe under a month, couple weeks.
Well,
If you're being like
so
really
the
generous.
panel does the panel say a few days?
No, it just says nobody knows how many days the eruption lasted. Yeah, so let me go get it. Nobody knows how many days the eruption lasted, but Neo's vomiting finally settled down. And then after you transition from the bottom right panel on the right page, and you go to the top of the left page, because you read right to left, you see Neo looking up at him, and he says, "Hey, Neo, you feel better getting all of that out of your system? You must be hungry, like the other." And he basically shares God with him. And you see Toriko standing in the panel with his shirt, or like his shirt has been removed. He basically just has like his top half is pretty much naked because he doesn't have a shirt on, but he still has his pants. I was like, okay, that's what he looked like before in the battle, because in fact he's wearing the same pair of pants from the previous panels.
Well, it can't be that
So
long.
yeah, he hasn't.
It can't be...
He hasn't left the battlefield.
Well, it's not even
And then
that.
you get the next panel on the following page. All the other characters there. You see Sunny, you see Coco, Tepe, Zebra, Brunch, Komatsu, all the other characters, even Stardew, and they're all standing together in a panel. Like 2 pages later, they all still have the same outfits. They're rugged. There's like scratches on them. They look tired, but they're like happy that it's over. But
Well,
yeah, they've all been waiting there.
It can't be months because then you have to try to explain how they brought the 8 kings back to life.
Oh yeah. Well, some of them are able to be restored due to God. Some of them aren't. Some of them, I think, just die. But yeah, it can't be. It can't be months because they're able to prepare. Even if you think that they prepared God in a back kitchen, or no, not back kitchen, in a kitchen in a back channel, that would still mean they just put God in the back channel basically to prepare it to cut down on the time.
Well,
They still would have had to feed it to the 8 kings.
Well, it's not even that. It's like you can't use the hotel as your time frame either because you still have to account for the time it will take for everyone while they're injured to walk back from the gourmet world.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, they haven't left the battlefield until after Neo stops erupting. So I don't know how he made such a basic mistake.
I mean,
But we can continue.
it's literally an infinite feat, but because somebody doesn't like using the term infinite, they're trying to find some way to calculate it, which is fine. Calculate it however you wish. Just understand that it would be wrong no matter what result you come to. Currently up to 621.
Thing. I saw that claim a few times, but didn't see anything explicitly saying that in the manga. But this level of power is completely.
Oh, hang on.
No, I
I'm
can't.
gonna rewind a little
Toriko
bit.
has some great feats to create or destroy a universe. Having a dimension in your stomach is one thing. I saw that claim a few times, but didn't see anything explicitly saying that in the manga. But this level of power is.
Okay, so he's putting into contention whether or not Neo has a dimension in his stomach.
Sorry, my phone decided to disconnect me. Wonderful. Yeah, that's wrong. Again, he just wasn't paying attention to what Acacia said to Pear. Again, this is all in the last volume. If you want to figure out about Neo's feet, just go to the last volume because every conversation there is intended to explain the context of what's happening. In that conversation that you provided right there, the one where like Pear is talking to Acacia in like a little bit of backstory. Let me go and get it. Yeah, there it is. They point out specifically that it's like because Acacia is trying to deal with what Pear did. What Pear and the rest of the Blue Knights are dealing with Neo, and he's pointing out that like, wait, that flavor might be the key to saving your friends. It's like, you're still going on about that? There's no way. It's like, yes, there is. The energy of appetites is constantly being reborn. The same is true of gourmet cells. I won't accept that they've completely vanished from this world. The absolute quantity of energy doesn't change. All the ingredients of them, all of them too, cycle in and out as they're born again and again. And then he says, if it's worth it to try. If we succeed, everyone's safe. And you can eat blue ingredients again. If we succeed, what if we fail? Like, don't let your hopes delude you, Acacia. The appetite isn't so simple. And then he explains that he ate the Blue Zone universe. He says, Neo has no limits. If he's revived, he'll consume this red space as well. Such is the limitless appetite of the black gourmet cells that Neo possesses. Like, so what? If Neo tries to eat all of space, that's just him eating. You're the one who said there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, well, do you have some guarantee that method will work? And he says, no, I don't, but it's worth trying. You guys have pursued Neo for hundreds of millions of years, and you've never come across even a single turd of his, which makes sense seeing as how Neo doesn't create any waste. Do you think there are any living things in this world that don't metabolize? It must be storing up somewhere. Everything that he's eaten up until that point. The blue nitro and the blue ingredients as well as everything else. The whole point of what Acacia is trying to explain to Pear and Pear's plan with Acacia is to basically get rid of Neo and to essentially like force all the ingredients out of Neo's body so that they can save the Blue Zone universe. Because they firmly believe Neo didn't actually kill any of the people that he ate. He just swallowed them into another reality. And we find out that that is true because when he spits them up, it reveals a bunch of living organic animals and food ingredients. It spits up all of these galaxies. They're all alive.
Which would also mean
you don't have to have a.
Which would also mean there's a good chance that like Don Slime is still alive. He's just upset.
Yeah. Well, okay, we know Don Slime is alive because even after he gets eaten by Neo, we see him in the gourmet spirit world. Because we find out that Neo, part of where he spits things up from, also comes from a lot of the ingredients and things that he spits to the gourmet spirit world. It's just, well, technically speaking, I think because Neo ate part of him, he ends up there. But that's a whole other can of worms. The point is that he eats the infinite number of galaxies and all that material and mass and space. He spits it up, all of it's alive again. He has an infinite space inside his body. He has to. The whole point of what Acacia's saying is that he didn't produce any waste. He didn't poop or like take a piss or anything. Like he's not. His body isn't secreting waste, so he's not metabolizing it. He's not absorbing the things that he's eating in his stomach. He's eating them, and then they're disappearing somewhere inside of his body to another space. They have to be. So it's not like Kirby where you need a statement to explain it. Byproduct of all the people who know about Neo, we know it is going somewhere because they make it a point it is being stored somewhere else.
Yeah,
Acacia
think
had
of
to
Neo.
convince Pear of that.
Think of Neo less like Kirby and more like a much more better written Majin Buu.
A better written Majin Buu. Yeah. Yeah, because Kirby just eats things and they're just gone, but yeah.
Continuing, I'm at 6
Anyway.
minutes and 27 seconds.
Completely, no, I can't. Toriko has some great feats, but this is absolutely bonkers. This is unacceptable in many instances. In fact, this might be the first feat that I've ever looked at, especially a feat that I've calculated and gone, yeah, no, but I'm doing it here. This is so far outside the maximum range that every other feat in the franchise has had that I just cannot use this. There are creatures with a higher capture level because, yes.
Okay, so I'm at 7 minutes. I don't care if you think a feat is ridiculous by a character, especially if this is like the end of the series. Your opinion on whether you think this is too high for the verse is irrelevant. Because the problem... Oh, I just stopped the mic then. Sorry. So the problem that he's leaning into here is he's leaning into saying that this is an outlier, but the problem with using outliers in power scaling is an outlier is subjective to the person going through the series. It's not an objectical thing. But when it comes to outliers being used in power scaling, what a lot of people seem to forget is an outlier is an improbability, not an impossibility, and therefore it would just be a highball. Because again, you start saying that this is an outlier, this is unusable, then you're starting to cherry pick what you're okay with and with not using.
So a better position, I think, would be that like we wouldn't have like representative examples of characters scaling up to this level, but like the problem I think he takes with this is that Toriko as a verse consistently demonstrates the characters get stronger over time, and Toriko doesn't have any feats of being beyond building level at the beginning of the series. He's not higher than building level at the beginning because he's fighting things that are like maybe like a ton or like a few tons. By the end of the series, he's capable of fighting beings that could destroy a world that if it explodes, it can produce a feat equivalent to that of a supernova from a huge star. So it could threaten a solar system. That is such an astronomical jump that like the scale of a universe, even though it is much bigger, shouldn't be that much of a crazy idea when they literally tell you on panel the character created it. It's not like inconsistent or anything. It actually explains perfectly why the Earth functions the way that it does. Because the scale of it not only puts him and cements him as the main villain, because it puts him as the big bad that you have no hope of beating, and it gives him a specific ability that's incredibly difficult to deal with. It also explains the lore-given reason why the planet in Toriko is bigger, because the ingredients produced from the gourmet Big Bang come here. You have to believe Toriko has universe levels of potency and scaling, because otherwise the story doesn't make any sense at all.
Well,
it's also what they're telling you. So your opinion, like Kyle said, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. They're telling you he ate an infinite number of galaxies. It does not matter what you personally believe. He did it.
Well, this also goes in line with, like, one of the biggest jumps in power that we see in the series is when the four base come. By your logic, you would not accept any of the characters being able to fight the four base limbs, let alone the four beast itself, just given the feats that they've shown previously. Because in your eyes, that shouldn't make sense that they should be able to fight something that can shrug off artillery fire that can like level a country.
I am firmly of the position that even if we're going under the level of a planet, it shouldn't make a difference whether someone is like building level or country level. Like they can't just jump tiers. They need to have an explanation given. And if they give me consistent explanations of them jumping tiers over and over and over and over again, and they keep escalating it over and over and over again, like they do throughout Toriko, then I'm gonna assume, because I have been provided deductive evidence by the story on screen statements and feats, we're going to conclude that at the end of the story, the strongest characters are present, and these are the strongest characters. This is what they do. So you also have to conclude that as well. Did you get to 705 by chance? Because he talks about some of the capture levels as well.
I'm literally at 7 minutes.
Oh, well, just watch a little bit further.
Okay.
Power levels are a thing in Toriko, but it kind of makes sense. But anyway, they're creatures with far, far higher capture levels. Like, we're talking the difference between, like, I don't know, East Blue, Luffy, and Kaido. Thousands of times difference, who cannot be this powerful. I mean, it's literally more powerful than 99.99999% of other fictional worlds. Because at most series do like the creation of the universe or the destruction of the universe. Don't go far beyond that. They might go to multiverses, but creation of the universe is generally where you stop. Creation or destruction of the universe is generally where you stop. And this is 13 million times that power. As much as I love Toriko, I just don't think I can actually sign off on this feat.
Okay, but as we said before, your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's...
And all the people that they showed as his examples, I think you can argue are like into the multi-range.
I find it funny that some of the people down there put this in. Are like, yeah, but this is like weird that you didn't calculate the infinite spiked punch, and then it's like, oh, by the way, bro, it created an infinite number of galaxies, so his power is infinite. There's no need to calculate. Yeah, I'm glad someone pointed it out, because that is true. It's not about you signing off on it. It's not what your personal opinion matters. It's what's consistently shown. Like if you had examples that Toriko at the end of the series, after being fed all the red nitro, eating his eating God, being revived, and then eating his gourmet demon, and basically becoming, gourmet Jesus.
Having like 20 power-ups
Neo
shoved up his ass in like the equivalent of literally 5 minutes.
Yeah, so if that happened, and then he got stabbed in the leg by like a normal umbrella from like a normal person, and then that stuff happened, like we had several examples of him just getting, like, even if he was off guard, getting taken out by like building level attacks dozens of times over, then I could sort of understand your position about like some characters not scaling. Well, like every character at this level can only be threatened by other characters at their level. And they even point out that like even non-conventional attacks, like the Eight Kings jumping him with things like the Dragon King's laser, the Whale King Moon's belly, Sky Deer stuff, like all of these different hacks and abilities don't work either because he'll just swallow anything. So at this point, I just have to say you're just kind of unfortunately you are coping, good sir. You are coping quite hard. They tell you directly how many galaxies are being produced. You just have to accept that. There's no way around that.
Again, like given the context that he must be a giant FL fan because he has a giant fucking poster of them. Yeah, there's no. I'm not surprised anymore why he wouldn't accept it and why he's trying to put some kind of arbitrary number to it. But here's the thing. You're already shown that you don't accept it, but you don't accept it twice because you don't even accept the answer that you came to putting arbitrary numbers.
Also, saying most of fiction doesn't scale that you need, that doesn't matter. There are plenty of them that do. You're not going to be reading most of fiction. You're only going to be reading most of the major popular series throughout your life. And then if you go out of your way, you might find a bunch of more obscure series out there. But typically speaking, you and I and the rest of the people are going to be reading series, for the most part, that are predominantly well-known and predominantly mainstream. And of those ones, they are generally going to they may not be the most powerful, but they're going to be the most successful, which means they're going to have the most material and most stuff published, which means by proxy, they'll probably also have the biggest cosmologies that we'll be going over. So the position that like this would be stronger than like 99% of fiction, bro, being planetary is being stronger than 99% of fiction. Do you know how many fictional series are just like a mirror to our reality where they're just going over like sports or like romance? If you think most manga are actually like shonen, or even a lot of like shonen manga are really just like battles that take place beyond the planet, no, most of them cap at planet if they're being like generous. A lot of them stop way before then.
You have a
Most
lot of them.
JoJo's never even delve into that kind of power scaling. Some of them do, a lot of them do, but plenty of them don't.
You have a lot of them that
That's
usually
just
stop.
nothing of fictional stories.
You have a lot of them that stop anywhere between town to country.
Yeah, most of them stop in like, honestly, I'll just say like tier 8 to tier 7, like building level to like town level. They're just there. So it doesn't, like, saying that arbitrarily that like a universe is all of creation, therefore it doesn't make sense for it to be this high because it could outclass all the fiction. That's not really how we do things. Also, even Death Battle acknowledges plenty of places can just be universal. It's okay for things to be universal or even multiversal. Also, Death Battle will flat out claim that like DC has like infinite and has like all these higher dimensional spaces and everything. So they're completely fine with accepting astronomically banana bonkers scaling and tiers for these things.
Well, I'll give him an example of a verse that he would absolutely hate to go through. Like if this person ever went through like say Saint Seiya, he would never sign off that these people would be able to like destroy universes and like threaten like low multiversal structures. He would never accept that because nothing is ever shown over like building level.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at 7 minutes and 44 seconds, so should we just get through the last minute and then see?
Yeah. We'll keep going.
Nah.
I just can't. I'm all for interesting and cool feats, regardless of how powerful they are. After all, there's nothing more boring and uninteresting than a universe-busting statement or clash that shakes the universe. But this is just too much. It was clearly not intended to be applicable to power or attack potency. And there's literally no other feats in the entire franchise of this level of power. It just doesn't work. I always love this feat, but man, this is insane. Incredibly insane. Definitely not intended. But that said, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.
That's such an arrogant statement where it's like it's not intended. It's on the fucking panel. What do you mean it's not intended?
It's on the panel. They tell you how much it is. I guess what he's saying is that it's not intended for it to be calculated to power.
You can make that that's the same logic any anti-power scaler has. You can make that fucking argument about any series ever.
So I would ask him the question: do you think it's intended for Neo to be capable of eating galaxies? Okay, so that would make Neo galaxy level then. So if that's the case, why wouldn't he be capable of eating a universe if he ate an infinite number of galaxies? Because he would have had to eat the entire space, to be clear. Like, he would have had to swallow the entire thing. I don't, like, keep in mind, Neo is not the size of a planet. Neo's not the size of a star, he's not the size of a solar system, and he damn well isn't the size of a galaxy. But he ate a galaxy. So if you acknowledge he ate a galaxy, and you acknowledge he ate an infinite number of galaxies, even though he's not the size of one, why wouldn't he be capable of eating the universe? Like, why is that so impossible, and why wouldn't that scale to power then? Because his body can clearly swallow and absorb that. They point out in the story that a gourmet demon has to have powerful enough cells and strong enough cells to be able to absorb something like that. They can't just like eat anything they want. They even make it clear that humans that have gourmet cells, they specifically have to eat Acacia's full course. They have to eat not center. I believe it's they have to eat another, because the whole point of going to the spirit world to get another is that some of the cooks were basically trying to tell each other, like, the significance of another is that it allows flavor to be transferred into the spirit world, and it essentially allows you to recognize all things as food. And some of the cooks are like, I don't entirely understand. And he's like, okay, so why do you think that why do you think we don't eat chairs? I was like, well, aside from the fact that we don't sit on them, they're not food. It's like, yeah, but can you say that they're not food to you? I mean, you're a human, but like to like a type of insect, the wood that's in there would be food. It's because you mentally do not recognize it as food. That's what another does. It allows you to recognize all matter anywhere as food. Neo is already at the state where he acknowledges that everything is food. So he would have to scale to what he's eating because he's literally consuming it and biting down on it and swallowing it. And anyone that could punch him and hit him would still have to be capable of injuring him at that level, especially if they're also overworking his cells, because if they're punching him full of anger, like Toriko does, they would literally have to overwork the amount of energy in his physiology so that he spits it up, because that's what happens to him. When they fill him with enough anger that's supercharged, he basically ends up having his physiology overridden, so that Acacia, in control of his body, spits up and throws up all the food that he has because he can't consume anger anymore because he hates the taste of anger and rage. I'm just pointing out that, like, scaling-wise, they scale to the characters because clearly they're consuming them, they're producing a certain amount of energy, and the characters do punch them with consistent amounts of energy.
Well,
you can calculate these things, you just don't like infinite. That's all it is.
It's also like, if size is the issue, then you literally have Toriko, when he's during the Meteor Garlic arc, literally ate like a pudding the size of a building.
Yeah, keep in mind, Toriko himself is not anywhere near the size of a building. So, like, mass to mass size, that consumption doesn't even make any sense mathematically.
He's
like,
built
even if you want to say, like, I'm sorry, what?
He's built like a building, but he's not as tall as one.
So, like, how is he capable of consuming something so big? Unless we just conclude that he has a stronger physiology than that building, or that his physiology has more energy that it can produce than the total amount needed to destroy that building. You would have to. Or at least the total amount of matter that building has. And you just apply that logic to every single gourmet demon and anyone with gourmet cells in the series. But obviously they have to showcase that they can perform the feats in question, and it can't be contradicted. Which, in Neo's case, it never gets contradicted. And Neo is literally presented as what you struggled with earlier, was the main antagonist of the series. He was struggling with the term earlier in the video. I think the term you were looking for was antagonist. He's an antagonist that's just designed to consume anything. They point out that his black gourmet cells are supposed to eat everything. They're supposed to be capable of absorbing all things.
At the end of the story, they make it abundantly clear that he's not evil nor is he good. He's just is.
He's just a force of nature. But to be clear, he also probably would have been better for everyone else if people had just treated him nicely. Either way, I just find it weird that he brought those examples up. He brought up Kirby, but then he thought that for some reason this wasn't an example as obvious as Kirby's, when it's actually more blatant than Kirby ever has been. Because Kirby has to have statements about his belly. Neo does not have statements about that in that way. He has other statements that indicate his belly leads to other spaces. The stuff that he eats is confirmed to be an infinite amount and over an infinite space, which also implies he covered an infinite distance to eat those things. So, yeah, it's really this is a weird position to have. Overall, not a bad video when it comes to editing. I think overall he did a pretty good job of putting the scans on screen, but he's also equating a lot of things that really don't make sense. He also equated the capture levels by saying that Neo's capture level was 30,000 and the snake that was out there was like 530,000. I believe was what was presented. So that doesn't make sense. That's contradicted. Apparently he wasn't paying attention when they had the story, because to be clear, Neo's capture level was just assumed to be 30,000 based on what the Nitro had offered. The Nitro are just pointing out, like, this is based on the data they had at the time. They didn't calculate it based on many of the other animal species out there. They just, like, and Medora also points out that, like, those numbers don't really mean anything. They're at a level where it wasn't really applicable. They also additively added, what was it, Acacia's level to Neo's level. They didn't account for the power-ups they received, so those numbers would actually be much, much lower.
So, the funny thing is that he's using Revive Neo as the capture level, and it's like, okay, so just, we're not, you know, he has, like, I think it's like 3 or 4 more, like, power-ups during that fight, right?
Yeah, well, so that's his, like, final one, but then Acacia also got powered up by eating God, and then Acacia ate Neo immediately afterwards. I'm just pointing out, like, because he probably pointed out just to point out that, like, the capture levels didn't make any sense, which, to be fair, some of them are intended for animals that are actually, like, very dangerous, like the puffer whale, where they could potentially poison you, but they're not actually physically that strong. But in those cases, they'll actually tell you that's the case. I have no reason to believe that the giant snake thing that's flying out there that eats planets is stronger than Neo. There's no evidence of that. You would just assume he's bigger than Neo, and because he actually does eat planets, he's probably more of, like, a consistent threat than Neo on average, because Neo isn't, like, at least at the end of the story, he's not actively going around eating people. Like, he's just an independent agent that wants to eat some food, and he wants to have his belly satisfied and spend time with people. That's the main thing. He just wants friends. He wants company. Whereas that snake is more like a non-domesticated organism floating around in space, actively eating things all the time. The capture level is largely dependent on combinations of factors ranging from, like, the amount of power it has to how dangerous it is to human civilization. Let me tell you, a snake that is eating people's planets is very dangerous to your civilization. It's going to get the highest capture level possible.
The thing with the capture levels as well is that the capture levels, they can mean how dangerous this thing is, but they can also mean how much of a pain in the ass this thing is to, like, get a hold of.
Oh, yeah, it can also be in regards to, like, how obscure it is, maybe what region of the planet, how difficult it is to prepare for a meal, because preparing things for a meal goes into a large portion of the fee and the prices that hunters have for charging their services. Because if something will, like, kill itself, or will basically, like if it's like a skunk where it sprays the entire area, that can potentially contaminate the organism, so that when they try to prepare it and cook it for a meal, that could actually ruin the flavor and ruin the taste. And that could end up hitting the value of the item on the market. They explain this to you in the story. With Neo, we're not told the specifics of what gave him that capture level. We can kind of generalize it for the snake, because the snake is eating planets. Yeah, if that thing is if a snake came through our solar system and started eating a bunch of planets, even if we were told that there was a guy on our planet that ate the entire universe, or ate another universe, do you think we would care if there's a giant snake floating through our solar system eating the other planets? We would actively be more threatened by the thing that's actually destroying everything. If the guy that's on our planet stopped threatening everybody. Which in this case he did. Because the example that you're providing is after the story has already ended. So like Neo's no longer a threat anymore.
No.
Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Besides from that, as a bit of a final roundup of what we've seen, it's nice editing, but other than that, a lot of your arguments leave a lot to be desired, especially when you're presuming so much.
Yeah. A lot of it just comes down to like casting off belief of a specific thing because of how other series did it. Like I don't believe I think you mentioned East Blue Luffy and Kaido getting like thousands of times stronger or something. And it's like what does that have to do with like Toriko? Like unless you're using it for an explanation, it shouldn't like matter. You need to bring up examples from the actual series and use like a proper form like logic. Other than that, editing was solid. I'm glad he at least acknowledged that the feat is there, but spending the entire video just to say that you don't agree with the feat that is blatantly telling you this is how the feat is intended to be is not only weird, it just seems a bit disingenuous.
Well, it's also weird because he's disagreeing twice. He disagrees with the initial fate, but he also disagrees with the result that he comes to, which is like, okay, then why'd you do the video in the first place?
That seems kind of pointless.
Other than that, it's also like, you're disagreeing with arguments and scans. Like, again, it's nice that you had scans. It's nice to deal with a video that has scans for once. But you can't go against what it says on the panel. Like, it doesn't matter if you like it or not, whether you believe it or don't believe it. That is what it is.
One last thing, I found it kind of weird that he brought up like it was a combination of One Piece, JoJo's, and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And JoJo's has plenty of examples of more ridiculous, over-the-top abilities and powers, and even things affecting their cosmology. Would you accept those as being valid too, or would you just like throw those aside on the same basis? I'm kind of curious.
So, for example, like, would you look at Made in Heaven?
Because Toriko's is more blatant than JoJo's.
So, like, would you look at, like, Made in Heaven and be like, no, I don't believe he's affecting the universe because it doesn't match the power level? It's like, okay, but what about... It's like, okay, would you even accept Sea Moon being able to fuck with, like, Cape Canaveral? I don't know, it's just kind of weird having that kind of opinion. Did you mute yourself again?
I think you're cutting out.
No, so you didn't hear what I said?
No, you're cutting out.
Oh, okay. Would you rather we just end the video here then?
Yep, probably a good idea.
Alright.
I think we've drawn on long enough.
Alright. Thank you everyone for joining for the video.